Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm Rich Andy, sales engineer with Telestream, and I'm here to talk about our new integration between Telestream and AdID.org. This new feature functions as an action within the Vantage product line and can be integrated into any standard Vantage workflow operation. For today, we're going to look at this action being used as part of our normal commercial spot ingest for television or cable operations. I'll start here in the Vantage Workflow Designer, which is our tool for building workflows and defining operations within the Vantage system. What we're looking at the moment is a set of workflows that are part of our standard Vantage Traffic Manager deployment for ingesting commercial deliveries from Extreme Reach. We do also support, of course, Comcast, ITN, Javelin, and a full range of ad delivery services that support metadata exchange. This process is traditionally separated into two workflows. The first one here is utilizing a catch action, which is a special process for detecting not just an incoming media file, but also finding the accompanying sidecar files, XMLs, which contain the distributor's metadata for that particular commercial. Once we've identified a pair of incoming files, we then process the sidecar file and then use this populate action over here to store the metadata in a Vantage label for later review and processing. This forward action at the end then passes these incoming files off to the second workflow, this inventory portal one up here. This is used for primary ingest and processing for the media file itself. And here we do basic checks for media properties to ensure it's a valid file for broadcast. We do advanced audio analysis for compliant conversions, and we record this information into Vantage labels just as we did with the sidecar metadata earlier. With the new AdID integration, I've gone ahead and inserted a new workflow between those two. Now what we're going to do is do our regular catch process here in our ingest workflow, but we're actually going to pass that over to this new workflow. And then here we're going to do some AdID testing and some metadata retrieval before we send the file on for the in-depth processing as part of that inventory portal workflow. This is a pretty quick workflow to review since we have made sure to keep the AdID integration as streamlined as possible within Vantage. To start, we are receiving the task from a previous catch workflow. And then inside this automate action is where the connection to AdID occurs. Opening it up here, you can see that the configuration is very straightforward. We are specifying our input and deciding how we want to refer to the metadata that we retrieve from AdID. User IDs and the API keys are unique to each customer, so you will have your own. These ensure that all of your transactions are done through your own accounts and that they are secured when connecting to the AdID.org servers. The value that we're going to check here, you'll notice it's in a green box. This means that we have set up the action to use a previously bound variable to provide this value. In the case of these workflows, that means we are using the AdID value provided by the commercial delivery service as part of this query. We have the option of basic validation as well as a full data query. And then at the bottom here, we choose what we want to do with the resulting information. So in this case, whether or not it's a valid and then a secondary string for the resulting metadata that comes back so that we can use this information later in our workflows. Once the AdID query has been run, we move down to these decide actions. The top one here is for a result from AdID stating that the value provided was not valid. In this case, we can decide what kind of action we want to take. This example is configured to simply end and not accept anything that returns as not valid. However, we can also configure workflows to provide custom email messages to a traffic manager or operations department to alert them to an issue. We can also look at things like building out a quarantine system, allowing users to review the files in one of our portals and provide updates or overrides to the material in order to process it through the system. On the bottom branch, this decide is for AdID values that were valid. So we use this extract tool to read out the information they return to us, and this populator to record it to a Vantage label. The ending forward action then sends the material onto the inventory workflow to complete the ingest process. So now that we've sent some files through and retrieved their information, both from the distributor and from AdID, now we can review that information and the media itself in a Vantage portal. I'll pull up our web-based instance of one here. This collection of spots are all ones that return valid checks from AdID.org, and by clicking on one, I can load up here and we have access to review the media proxy and then the two sets of metadata we've retrieved. This first label here is what we refer to as the broadcast inventory and includes ad ID information provided by the distributor's sidecar file. So this is all from the sidecar XML from Extreme Reach. And then we also have some details about the media itself, and then also the audio information that we recorded during the analysis function while ingesting the file. Clicking on the second label, which is the ad ID validation label, we can take a look at the information that was retrieved when we use that automate action to query the adid.org servers. Starting with the basic code verification, we also have the full slate details for the spot, and scrolling all the way down, we can also see any recorded brand and product information registered with this ad ID. Now that we have this information recorded in the system, it's possible to do additional checks, like if we want to compare an agency name. We can look at what came from ad ID, and then we can come back and we can see what came from the broadcast distributor. We can also pick and choose what information we want to use when passing metadata onto an on-air system, an automation platform, or other third-party systems. We can do those additional comparisons also as safety checks. We can do things like not just compare whether or not these names are equal. We can check things like spot lengths if they're correct, and other validations to make sure that the incoming material is appropriate. This information, as I said, when being passed along, can be done as a mix of the two sets of metadata. These can be done simply as a preference as to which one you can use. They can also be done as one data source to kind of act as a backup to another. So say a distributor, for some reason, didn't have the client information in here correctly, we could use that as a clue to go, okay, we're going to go check what the client registered in the ad ID validation is, and we can use that as part of our information to send on to an automation system. So very flexible in what you want to do with that and how you want to use that information, both for additional safety checks as well as what you want to provide to additional products down the line. In addition to being easy to integrate into existing Vantage workflows, it's also very easy to use this new feature via Vantage's own API. And I just wanted to show you a quick example here. So this is real simple. Basic API request comes in. It's going to give us a material and a value to check against adid.org servers, and then we'll run that automate action as normal. This simple example is designed for the basic process of receiving a request. We do the check against AdID servers, and then we deploy out a full XML response of all the information to be sent where needed for third parties to access. So very, very quick, simple integration to be able to do that. Can also be extended for third parties to be able to send requests to Vantage to provide AdID validation, transcoding, file-based QC automation, all of those great tools that are part of the Vantage platform, all easily accessible via the API, and the AdID integration can be part of that very easily. Thank you again for joining me for this quick intro to Telestream's new integration between Vantage and adid.org. This feature will be fully available option with the release of Vantage 8.0 Update Pack 2. For more information on this option, the Vantage platform, or how to integrate these new features into your existing workflow, please reach out to your Telestream sales contact or visit us at telestream.net.